In the third trimester, you may notice in the last few weeks of the third trimester that some of your fatigue or heartburn or food aversions start to reemerge. We also tend to notice that weight gain starts to slow down in the final few weeks of pregnancy. So while there is a high rate of growth for maternal weight gain during the second trimester, in the third trimester this tends to slow down, but baby's weight gain is picking up. In the third trimester, the mom's need for energy or for calories is the highest out of the entire pregnancy. So pregnant women in the third trimester need approximately 450 additional calories just to support baby's development versus when they were in the first trimester or not even pregnant. This is often found just by eating higher meals, or it might be by getting an extra snack. So something like peanut butter on toast with a banana and a glass of milk would be enough to give you your additional carbohydrate, protein, fat, and calories every day. If we think about what makes up that additional calorie need, we are looking for increases in all carbs, protein, and fat in the third trimester. So for carbohydrate, we know that the baby prefers to use glucose for its brain development and for its cell division, which is happening at such a high pace in the third trimester. Women need to eat at least 50 grams additional carbohydrate just to support babe, as well as at least 125, if not more, to support their own health. So pregnant women in their third trimester should be eating at least 175 grams of carbs every day. Ideally, we want these carbs to be well distributed throughout the day so that baby always has a constant availability of glucose in the blood. This can be met by making sure that every meal or snack that you have has some sort of carbohydrate, whether that's fruit, whole grains, some starchy vegetables, potatoes, pasta, nuts, or seeds. All of these are really rich carbohydrate sources for baby. Protein needs are also increased in the third trimester. And in fact, they're increased by 40% over what women needed in the first trimester or pre-pregnancy. So for example, a woman weighing 150 pounds before pregnancy actually needs an additional 40 grams of protein in the third trimester. This can be achieved by making sure that every meal that you have has a good source of protein. So for example, making sure that a third of your plate is protein at every meal. In addition, making sure that every snack that you have, so 2 to 3 snacks every day, have some sort of protein in them, whether that's meat, fish, poultry, hummus, nuts, seeds, eggs. All of these are very rich sources of protein. Fat needs are also increased in the third trimester, and part of this provides more energy for the fetus, as well as helps with baby's brain development and absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. In particular, women need higher levels of EPA and DHA to help in baby's brain development, especially during the third trimester. This is best met by eating fish or seafood 2 to 3 times per week. The best sources of fish and seafood are low mercury sources, such as wild-caught fish, such as trout or salmon, or canned skipjack or light tuna. We want to minimize the bottom feeders, so the fish that are really big, like the bluefin tuna or the albacore tuna. Those are the ones that are higher mercury. For women who don't eat fish, it would be advisable to have an EPA and DHA omega-3 supplement, but I think it's important to know that studies are really inconsistent as to whether omega-3 supplements actually do anything to help with baby's brain development. Of course, there might be scenarios where fish intake is just not possible for pregnant women, and in those scenarios, of course, we would recommend a supplement. But where possible, fish and seafood intake is the best way of helping baby's brain development. Folate is a B vitamin that plays a really vital role in baby's brain and spinal cord development. We know that women should be supplementing with folate even before they're pregnant and through every trimester. In the third trimester, it's important to make sure that you're getting 400 to 600 micrograms of folate, ideally in the form of methylfolate versus a folic acid, because that's the most bioavailable. So getting that from a prenatal, in addition to making sure that you're getting several folate food sources throughout the day. Folate is found in any food that has foliage, so things such as fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, beans are all really good sources of folate. And pregnant women should be making sure that they're getting these with every meal and every snack. Choline is another nutrient that is related to baby's brain development and plays an equally vital role as folate. Choline is relatively new to the prenatal scene, and so the majority of prenatals don't yet include an adequate amount of choline in their formulation. But there's been so much research as of late on the importance of choline to baby's development that I'm sure in the next few years it will be standard practice to recommend choline supplementation in much the same way that we recommend folate supplementation. Until then, it's important for pregnant women to consume approximately 400 to 450 milligrams of choline from a supplement every day. Choline can also be found in food, although it's not found in a lot of foods. The types of foods that are high in choline would be things such as meat, bacon, and eggs. So certainly women who aren't eating those things daily are at a much higher risk of choline deficiency. We know that 90% of pregnant women aren't getting enough choline, so this is a really vital nutrient to supplement with whether or not you think you're getting enough. Vitamin D supports bone formation and development of the fetus. Vitamin D is something that many women believe they can get from the sun, but in fact, it's actually hard to get sufficient vitamin D from the sun. In order to get enough vitamin D from the sun, we have to be out in repeated bouts of 15 minutes every day because the precursor that's in skin degrades after 15 minutes. We have to make sure that we have the majority of our skin exposed without sunscreen, and we have to make sure that we're out in the sun, so not in the shade or inside a building. If we can't meet all or most of these criteria, there's a really good chance we're not synthesizing anything significant in terms of vitamin D from the sun. It is important that we get enough vitamin D from both food and supplement. It's recommended that we look for 600 IUs in a prenatal, and women may need to supplement with additional vitamin D depending on what their vitamin D status is. It's always a good idea to get your vitamin D levels checked in your blood pre-pregnancy and perhaps throughout your pregnancy to really make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. Women who are deficient pre-pregnancy are more likely to have children born preterm, and in fact, it is somewhat related to miscarriage. So we want to make sure that we're getting anywhere from 600 IUs from our prenatal plus potentially up to 4,000 IUs total per day. We also want to make sure that we're getting vitamin D from food, although vitamin D is only found in a handful of food sources. Food sources of vitamin D include fortified dairy, so things such as milk, cheese, and yogurt, fatty fish like salmon, and eggs. Some non-dairy milks and other products are fortified with vitamin D, but not all, so make sure you check your label for that. Iron is another really crucial nutrient to make sure you're getting enough of. We know that iron deficiency in women impacts both how that pregnancy goes and actually impacts that baby when it's older. We know that women who are iron deficient either during pregnancy or pre-pregnancy are more likely to have kids at age 5 who have attention difficulties, learning difficulties, and other sorts of cognitive deficits. I always recommend my clients get their iron checked in each trimester. Because your iron needs are so high and because your blood volume increases so much, it's possible that it gets diluted and baby doesn't have adequate supply of iron as your pregnancy continues. Because iron is such a crucial nutrient for baby's cognitive development, we actually recommend that women get their entire pregnancy needs from a supplement. So looking for a prenatal that has at least 27 or 28 milligrams per day is important. In addition, iron from food would include things like meat, fish, and poultry. It would include things like dried fruit, nuts and seeds, tofu, and other beans. And so it's important to make sure that we're getting these several times per day as well. Another interesting thing that we know about iron, particularly in the third trimester, is that women who have low iron levels in the third trimester have also been associated to have higher levels of postpartum depression, which is something that if we can avoid from adequate iron, it will make your early months with your baby much more enjoyable. Calcium supports bone development in the fetus, and the majority of bone development actually happens in the third trimester. In fact, in the third trimester, mom is transferring approximately 300 milligrams of calcium every day to baby. So 300 milligrams is quite a lot of calcium. That's approximately how much calcium you would get in a glass of milk. It's important that we're getting calcium both from food, so looking for things like dairy, milk, cheese, yogurt every day, having fortified non-dairy, so some of the nut or soy products that are fortified with calcium, as well as leafy greens and some seeds. In addition, make sure that your prenatal has 250 milligrams of calcium to help top up this requirement. There's one nutrient that we want to make sure we're not getting too much of in the third trimester, and that's vitamin A. We know that vitamin A can be severely toxic to babe, and generally this happens from supplement versus food. So women who are taking higher than 8,000 to 10,000 IUs or international units of vitamin A per day from supplement are the ones that are most at risk of some of these negative consequences to babe. This can happen for people who are taking specific vitamin A supplements. So perhaps they're taking vitamin A to decrease acne or to decrease wrinkles. It's found in things like retin A medications or Accutane. These are all things that would never be prescribed to a pregnant woman, but sometimes women have them prescribed pre-pregnancy and don't realize that they shouldn't continue them once they are pregnant. So it's really important to check your prenatal as well as the label of any other supplements you might be taking to make sure that you are not getting higher than 8,000 international units of vitamin A a day.